Hey folks, Eric here, the Whatever Guy, because it really is whatever for me. Do you folks want to know what the Army claims is their reason for recruiting woes? You guys stick around, man, and we'll talk about that. As you guys know, my name is Eric. I'm the Whatever Guy, and you see videos a couple days a week, basically keeping you guys updated in the world Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, hemp cannabis, just what's going on around. But today, man, sitting here bullshitting around on early Wednesday morning. I actually had another video that I actually shot this morning, was ready to get it uploaded and posted, and then I saw this article over here. As you guys may or may not know, this is a subject that, about the Army that is near and dear to my heart. I have complained many times about the recruitment woes of the Army, and the fact that we can't get good, honest soldiers in the Army, and they are experiencing a all-time low for recruitment right now in the Army. And as it stands, for those of you who don't realize, I'm retired military myself. Spent a little bit of time in the military, and obviously after that, I did a little bit of security work overseas, and so I've got a in-depth knowledge of what's going on in the military. And in my opinion, we have failed our country in the amount of people or the type of people that we are recruiting into the Army. We have basically taken everybody that we can find as soft as possible. We put them in the Army, and we just can't win wars now. Like, we are at an all-time situation where we are ready to be invaded. Like, we don't have the military that we used to have before, and they have done, like with this COVID and all this, they have basically weeded out all the tough people in the military. Like, everybody that would stand up and basically tell you to fuck off, they have basically weeded those folks out of the military. And what you've got is a bunch of, according to them, a bunch of bigots, and too many, fat, lazy, stupid bigots is basically what they're pointing out. And so we're going to flip over here into an article over here. I believe this is over at 1819 News. This is an opinion article, and I believe this is by Joey Clark. And this is the Army's excuse for recruitment failures: too many fat, stupid, and drug addicted bigots. Now I'm gonna try to put that in my thumbnail, and hopefully this video won't get suppressed, but we're definitely going to put that in the video. It says there are two paths one may take. Make any given population more diverse: the path of inclusion, increasing the minority population, or the path of exclusion, decreasing the majority population. Guess which path the United States Army, is treading to achieve its diversity objectives. Black recruits have gone from 20% to 24% of the pool, and Hispanics recruits have risen from 17% to 24%, according to military.com last week, with both groups seeing largely flat recruiting totals, but increasing as a percentage of incoming soldiers as white recruiting has fallen. Mission accomplished? Now the Army acts as if this wasn't their objective. They would rather frame their victory for diversity as a failure in recruitment, one due to a wicked mix of pathologies in the white male population of the United States. The rate at which white recruits has fallen far outpaces nationwide demographic shifts. Data experts and Army officials interviewed by military.com noted they don't see a single cause to the recruiting problem, but pointing to a confluence of issues for Army recruiting, including partisan scrutiny of the service, a growing obesity epidemic, and an underfunded public education system. So the Army is basically blaming a growing obesity epidemic and the underfunded public education system as their issues for recruitment into the Army. Internally, some Army planners are alarmed over the data trends, but see it as a minefield to navigate, given increasing partisan attacks against the military for its efforts to recruit and support a diverse force, according to interviews with several service officials. Among other problems, opioid overdoses have increasingly pummeled the U.S. every year, with 80,000 deaths in 2021, and about 75% of overdose victims being white, and many in their 20s, according to data complied by the Kaiser Family Foundation. So basically, what they're saying is that drugs is basically coming in and killing one whole group of people that are basically in their 20s. And some Army officials interviewed by military.com pointed to struggles by recruits from the South to meet service standards, though there are no indications that recruits from the South are disproportionately white. Translation: we tried, but all those fat, stupid, white, drug-addicted, Southern partisan bigots just don't want to join the Army for some reason or another. Instead of blaming the population, they're aiming to recruit while also somehow making that population a smaller share of the military's overall population. For diversity's sake, the Army should engage in more self-reflection. Even with the best made plans, the Army gets a vote, but I suspect if the Army looked long and hard, they would eventually glimpse the enemy in their interior, in the mirror. I believe that the Army fails to meet recruiting goals not because of the challenging market environment, writes Colonel Justin Overball, but rather because a sizable portion of the American public has lost trust in it and no longer sees it as an institution worthy of personal investment. And let me just say this, there was a time back in the day, back before my generation, that people were actually joining the Army because they were, patriotic to the United States. That changed. That changed by the time I came around in the 80s and 90s. And it seemed like the majority of the people that were joining the Army were joining it to get college, to go to college, get college money. That was their path. Like for low income people and people that were like on the edge of the law at some point, they had an opportunity to get their life straight and they could go to the Army, and the Army would give them an opportunity to go to college and excel in places where they wouldn't be able to excel in the obviously in the demographic that they were living in. So that basically, and if you take someone like me, from rural Alabama, there wasn't a lot of job opportunities in that area. Yeah, I had a couple scholarships to small colleges for baseball, but the fact of the matter is I did not have the money at all to even fund a college education whatsoever. So the college education that I have right now was funded by the military. I did 20 years in the military, and during that period of time, I was able to get a degree or two in the avenues that I wanted, and the military was nice enough to pay for that. Now, obviously, that was one of the reason for my joining the military was not college money, but the reason for my joining was the fact that I just didn't have the avenues that I wanted in rural Alabama that I wanted to pursue. And so that is the same for a lot of folks. And this is changing for people. There are a lot of people out there that are now understanding that the Army has become this myriad of like diversity that they can't understand. They have taken all the tough people out of the military and basically put in all these people that want to sit around and be fat and lazy and take drugs. Unfortunately, anyone considering service today can look to a myriad of examples of the Army failing to meet their end of the bargain, whether it's a lack of adequate and safe housing for soldiers and their families, the persistence of sexual assault, and inability to address suicide rates or to accurately account for property and funds, and even to develop a comprehensive physical fitness test. The Army and the Department of Defense more broadly consistently fail to achieve results. Now, in my opinion, prior to all this diversity stuff like that, the military, the Army, the United States Army was the greatest franchise on the face of the earth. They have a book for everything. They have a set standard way that they were going to do everything from day one. And these standards have been obviously played with over the years to adjust for the times. But as we've moved into this time, they are now adjusting all this training and all this stuff to meet this to like lower the standards as it stands. Like we had a physical fitness test that we had to pass whenever I was in the Army, and it was a standard physical fitness test for 18 to 24 that you had to meet this to pass, and that you could actually max that PT test out. They have lowered those standards all the way around. They have lowered the standards that allow people to get in, so that what we have done is created a situation where we have a bunch of lazy people that are in the military that are not in shape. Now, I don't know about you, but the thing that I hate worse in the world is to see a security guard or a cop that is fat, because in my opinion, you're not letting down the people that you're supposed to protect. You're letting down not only them, but you're letting down the people in your unit, like the people that expect you to back them up. Like if you had to run all the way across the campus to a gunfight and you were out of breath when you got there and weren't able to perform your job, you're no use to anyone. And that's the same thing that goes on in the military. If you're fat, lazy, out of shape, and on drugs, you're not going to be able to support the people that are in your unit. You're not going to be a good team member, and that's what the Army is, man. It's a team. It's called esprit de corps. But these shortcomings, while disastrous, pale in comparison to the Army's ultimate failure, the failure to win wars. Instead of a flailing about trying to overcome challenging market dynamics, therefore, the Army should immediately commit to fixing itself. It can start by admitting its significant failures and its baffling inability to be honest with the American public about them. There are plenty of retired officers who have had public epiphanies about these systematic failures, but this kind of candor and responsibility needs to propagate among currently serving senior officials across the defense enterprise and the political establishment. Once honesty is reestablished as a core value, the Army has come to grips with the fact that it failed, and it can then begin to explore the reason why. Simply put, the Army fails because it is set up to fail. It was asked to accomplish objectives in Afghanistan and Iraq that it could not possibly hope to achieve. And let me just say this, guys, like I am, now that I'm out of the military, I am completely against going overseas and fighting in another country, because as it stands right now, you bring that shit to my house, that's another story altogether. And that's in essence what we were doing to these people. We were going over there and fighting them on their turf. Like if you came to you give me 40 acres of my land in Alabama and you bring a SWAT team in there, and I promise you, I'm going to decimate all of them, because I know the territory, and I've been living on the territory, and I can survive on that territory much longer than you. Like you have to bring equipment in to survive in an environment that I've been living in my whole life. And that's basically what we were doing when we were going overseas. In my opinion, these backseat drivers that are here, these political people, I will never go overseas and fight for them again unless they want to go overseas and fight with me. However, if you come to my house and bring that stuff to my house, you got some issues, man. You got some real issues. Perhaps the diversity agenda wasn't an optimal mission for an army already doomed to fail in its military missions, set up to fail by a political establishment obsessed with appearing virtuous while possessing no virtue nor foresight. Perhaps taking the path of exclusion to achieve diversity wasn't an unintended consequence at all. The Army could have been more inclusive by aiming to recruit more members of minority groups, but maybe that was never really the plan. Maybe just like in recent theaters of war, the U.S. Army was set up to fail by being encouraged to succeed down the wrong road. The U.S. Army can blame their failures on people they hope to serve if they like. The American people's maladies are certainly not few. There is much blame to go around for America's decadence and decay. Nonetheless, the U.S. Army wants better recruitment numbers, white, black, brown, male, female, or otherwise. I say, position, heal thyself. Guys, this is a crazy situation. Like they need to take a time of reflection and realize that even with the COVID mandates, they were able to push out. Like I'm still in contact with a lot of my buddies from the military. Like I get at least one text message a week from someone that I did that I served with in the military. I call it doing time, but somebody that I did time with in the military, and they are basically forced out of the military. Like I know guys that were on 17, 18, like right within a year or two of retiring. They came out with this COVID mandate. These guys stood up and said, we're not taking this fucking thing. And now they're pushed out. And now we find out that on the backside that they're trying to call these guys back and make everything okay. And it's not okay. It's not okay. Like you have basically made our, designed the military that would allow us to be invaded at any point. We're not winning wars. We're basically just maintaining. Like we're not, our technology is the only thing that has kept us at the forefront. If we don't start getting some tougher people in the military, we're going to be screwed down the road. All right, folks, Thewhateverguy signing off, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Love you. See ya.